So welcome to Investing in Women Climate Warriors. Today we've got Stan Chen and Aaron Duda. Aaron's on his way. He's trying to get him to hop in. And Stan is the only one who's been able to make it into this session. Michelle is on her way and she's stuck in traffic. I'm joining you all from the magical island of Bermuda at the moment. And I've been here for about a week. We have some really interesting conversations happening. I'm happy to share that I've been talking to a number of people here on the island about ocean tech and just what they're doing in terms of blue economy and climate ESG. So it's been quite eye-opening for me to see what this island is doing on the progressive front, just in terms of reducing carbon emissions. Not just from land, but from water. And there's tremendous hope, and also meeting with leading women entrepreneurs and investors from all different segments. And so I've just had quite the experience and decided to hold this summit from here. And so far it's worked out in a beautiful way. And we've got 2 more days to go. So our first full summit coming out of Bermuda. This is our 3rd Amplifying Her Voice global virtual summit. We've had quite the experience since March and lots of learnings. I'm going to go ahead and dive in, Stan, since we're on the clock and we've tried 15 minutes of technical difficulties. Why don't you introduce yourself, please, and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the climate space.
And thank you so much, Anu, for inviting me here. My name is Stan Chen. I am the CEO of RecycleGo, and we've built and are deploying a blockchain for recycling. Essentially, what we're doing is assigning a digital identity to the plastics that are being recycled, tracking it as it's being collected from the environment through beach cleanups, through community cleanup efforts, and track it as it's essentially being removed from the environment and being recycled. The underlying thesis behind RecycleGo is that I do have a very firm belief that our traditional business models are broken. And we really need to dive into new economic models that place a valuation on doing good and social good. And there's a value to that. We're seeing that in all aspects of life, in terms of business, companies that have ESG, focused on ESG metrics and report on their ESG initiatives. By the way, ESG, for those who don't know, are environment, social, and governance. These kind of efforts by companies in terms of doing good actually translate to a higher return in terms of the investment dollars. So basically what we're doing is really trying to place a valuation or do a price discovery because of the blockchain chain of custody of the actual recycling activity. And that's about it. I'm a 20-year veteran of the recycling industry, 2nd generation recycler. We are based in Irvington, New Jersey. I actually live in downtown Manhattan. And COVID was definitely as we're going into this new hybrid conference environment. It's refreshing actually that we're starting to not only have virtual but hybrid events. But hopefully at some point the State of Women, I'll see Anu in person at a hybrid event soon.
So we just had, I was just co-chair of the Florida Blockchain Summit, and we had 400 in-person attendees in Orlando. Had I known, I would have totally invited you for this one. There'll be another one in Tampa, I think in November. Possibly have an event in Bermuda. I'm here exploring venues and partners and things like that. So I'm just thinking this might be a great destination for a blockchain summit. As you can tell, it all starts with one trip and then it turns into 2 trips and so on and so forth. So this is definitely the way forward, and we're happy to be connecting with you here today. So in terms of your portfolio, what you've been working on, we talked about this earlier today. Do you look for investments that impact women or have women-led investments? Can you comment on this? And what sorts of trends do you see coming up in the near future? I'm going to mute myself.
Absolutely. So Recycle Go, obviously, it was started about 4.5 years ago now. And one of the things that I really wanted to instill in terms of the corporate culture was just making sure we were being responsible, we were being good citizens, and obviously like people, planet, profit, right? And that's the underlying, that's the core of Recycle Go. And because of that, we really use the UN SDG framework as our basis for really modeling out our behavior. And I think the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, actually provide a very good framework for businesses, companies, to conduct business. And because of that, we're actually we're a UN Global Compact signatory. And because of that, we have basically commitments to really follow the UN SDGs. And it's especially relevant with our talk today because we're really dealing with the UN SDGs 5. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 5 talks about gender equality, and also not only gender equality, but also the empowerment of women and girls, right? And for our company, really, as a blockchain company, as a technology company looking to change people's behavior by essentially incentivizing recycling, it's actually this is essentially part of our core business, like the empowerment of underserved communities and gender as well. So it's pretty much part of our underlying tenets. It's very interesting that Anu, you invited me, and this was the topic of our conversation because we just finished building our blockchain. It's a Hyperledger-based blockchain that we finished, and we're deploying it on our first 2 pilot partners for our projects. And both of them actually happen to be women-owned businesses. And I would love to highlight them right now, especially in terms of sustainability and recycling. First one that we've piloted is a company called Recyclers based in Lagos, Nigeria. It was founded by Bilikis Adebiye and her brother, and she just looked around locally, and just there were so many bottles and so many water bottles and soda bottles, and there's no municipal waste collection system. She said, you know what? I'm going to essentially form a company to collect it and recycle it and profit from it. And it's amazing. We've been working with them for a few years, and we're going to be layering our blockchain on top of that process, tracking the plastics as it's being collected and recycled. And I know you're muted.
Introduce the blockchain component to this recycling, or did she reach out to you? How did that work?
It was actually very interesting. So in 2018, what happened in the recycling business, again, I've been doing this for 20 years at this point. So we were actually one of the first companies that were moved into China when they opened up their markets in the mid 80s. So we've been there ever since. And the Chinese recycling market actually pretty much shut down in 2018 when China introduced what's now known as the Green Store policy, where they said, we're no longer taking the world's trash. We have 0.5% contamination rates. And essentially, all of a sudden, the world's recycling market shut down overnight. And what happened was we had a lot of partners that we worked with and over the 40 plus years that we were in China. And most of them just went into the satellite. They essentially moved their businesses to the satellite countries in Asia. And we had other partners that were like, you know what, we don't want to follow everybody else. Let's establish a recycling operation in Africa. And that's how basically we became shareholders for a recycling company in Africa and in Nigeria. And I went to go visit, and just all I did was Google, recycling company in Lagos, Nigeria, and here was recyclers. I set up a meeting with Wale, the CEO, which is Billikis's brother, and set up a coffee with him. We got to talking, and he said, he was explaining some of the problems that he was having. I was like, you know what? I have a solution for you. I have a software that can actually help you with your routing. So that's how we got connected, and we've been friends ever since.
Awesome. And so when do you see this technology rolling out? Approximately when?
So it's being deployed right now for MVP. So we're deploying it right now to track bottles in recyclers in Nigeria. We're also deploying it for a company called Net Your Problem. That's also a women-run business, Nicole Baker, and she's actually out of, I believe, Portland, Oregon area, actually, or is it Seattle, Washington? I'm not sure. But she's based out of the West Coast, and what they do is they collect fishing nets as before they're discarded or introduced or leaked into the environment and recycle them back to nylon pellets. So what we're going to be doing over there is tracking them on the blockchain as they're being collected from the environment and tracking it as it's being recycled back into nylon or polypropylene. So so in terms of these two are pilot projects. So we anticipate really have a full-scale, essentially public deployment and release by the end of the year. And at that point, we're really defining, right now, we're focusing on the business use case as a supply chain optimization tool for blockchain. But ultimately, obviously, I want to use blockchain and recycling and the collection of plastics as a tool, as a vehicle for socioeconomic empowerment. And in that respect, we definitely want to tokenize it and deploy this to have a general, as a general release before the end of the year. Look, it's like I'm not sure everybody knows, but 1 billion people. There's a billion people that are unbanked, right? So, in terms of being able to have financial vehicles, of financial, having a wallet, and the issue of the AML KYC, issues in terms of having no identity prevent people from doing banking. So I think really tokenizing it, allowing them to really earn income from a digital wallet with the tokenization system will really empower a lot of people and give people dignity.
So we're working on a solution, blockchain-based, that was developed during COVID, where you can listen, learn, and earn tokens from listening to podcasts. So anything around financial literacy, women's health, entrepreneurship, investing. This is our solution where we can bring it out to women who may or may not be able to read, but they can listen and learn, and they can also share their wisdom and get tokens and receive tokens for listening to other people's content. So ultimately, they can spend it, save it, invest it, donate it, whatever they want to do with it, but it gives them the opportunity, and we're just in the process of rolling that out. Erin, I see you. You just need to refresh your screen. I know it took you a while to get in here, but we don't see you. We can hear you. We don't see you. So either turn your video on, maybe if your video is off and you're mute, if you can turn those both on, please. You can hear me. Hopefully you can. Let's see. I do see Erin in here. So unmute. Let's see. Okay, we're going to try this again. He's trying to get in. I can tell he's trying to get in. Okay, so this is great. So the underbanked, unbanked, this is the same space, same game that we're playing in. And one of the thoughts is that if you're issuing tokens, we can also maybe find a way to collaborate and find a way to store those tokens in the back end of what we're building. So
absolutely, you and I should have a talk about that.
Yep.
we're definitely looking into the tokenomics of this, and it's a very easy business model, especially in terms of us. It's recycling has an economic value. We're placing a valuation around the recycling activity itself, as well as the plastics that are being collected has a value itself. So it's for us to create an economic system is like we've already fleshed through most of the fundamentals of that. And it's one thing I need to mention, especially in terms of recycling and blockchain and as a vehicle for socioeconomic empowerment is just me. I've been in the recycling space for 20 plus years, and the numbers that I know and that I recite are very, very scary that most people, most of the general population aren't really privy to. And the numbers are scary in terms of how much damage we're doing to our own environment and to the atmosphere and to the oceans. The numbers are we're according to the OECD's latest numbers, 100 million tons of plastics every single year. And we're not stopping. And that's the scary part. Not only are we not, in terms of mitigating our economic, our environmental impact, especially when it comes to plastics, they always say reduce, reuse, and recycle, right? And recycle should actually be the last step that you do. And the first thing you should do is reduce or reuse. And that I firmly believe in that. I firmly believe in, as a recycler, that we shouldn't be what you go to in terms of a solution for your plastics consumption.
Correct.
And it's scary, but it's like with 400 million tons of plastics being produced every single year, the world's recycling rate is only 9%. So we're talking about, over 350 million tons of plastics basically that are not being recycled. 10% of it's being leaked into the oceans every year. And we're ingesting a credit card every week at this point. The numbers are scary. And I think of plastic, and I like to, especially when we're dealing with plastics and social movements and socioeconomic empowerment. I like to basically introduce the concept that I really do believe plastics are the new colonialism. All right, we have third world countries that are being inundated with single-use plastic products, and no way for them to get rid of them, polluting their own environments and basically essentially flooding their own oceans and their coastal environments.
We have a special guest. 1 second. I just want him to say hello real quick. He's also investing in women. This is Jonathan.
Yes. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to see you all. Climate Warriors. That's great. I used to head a climate NGO in Bermuda. So fantastic. Been enjoying the conference today. This is great. Thanks.
And tell us, you're with the Global Entrepreneurship Week Bermuda. Is that you?
Sort of. Okay. I'm here with Bermuda Economic Development Corporation. I work on cooperatives in particular.
Fantastic. So we're having a conversation on investing in women climate warriors. And I just saw the accelerator that you guys have.
Yes.
Do you have any climate entrepreneurs? Any that you might?
I have to admit, with COVID, I haven't actually met the new cohort this year, but we had some nice environmental entrepreneurs last year, including, I think I just heard you talk about single-use plastics. There was this one entrepreneur last year who was recycling marine debris, plastic debris, into swimwear, snorkels, masks, and fins for local sale.
And what was it, a women-led company? Do you remember?
Actually, that one was me.
Okay. It's okay. It's investing in climate warriors, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome.
I would love more information on that. We can throw that information, that activity on the blockchain and have a full chain of custody for the material.
Yeah, I'm sure we can provide that between myself and Karina.
Absolutely. So we just kind of lucked into this today and we're finding ways to collaborate. They have an incubator program here. Is it open to everyone? Do you have to be Bermudian, or how does that work?
I believe you have to be Bermudian.
Okay. So you don't qualify if you're not on the island. But for those of you that are on the island, if you'd like to apply, There is an accelerator cohort that just starting, and then there's another one coming maybe later.
Yes, an annual thing.
An annual thing, exactly. But we're just getting comfortable, and they have an amazing program here for women entrepreneurs. This fall, they're doing another conference. Is it the Power Conference, which is on the 4th year. So we're just exploring ways to highlight women entrepreneurs right here on the island.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
See you soon. I'll be back for our 10 o'clock Bermuda and Beyond session tomorrow. I'll just let Felina know. Thank you. Awesome. Yes, so we're going to continue back now that Erin's here. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, please, about what you're working on in the climate space and investing in women entrepreneurs.
Sure. Thanks, Anu. Sorry, it took me a while to log on there. I did refresh my screen several times, switched to the iPhone and switched back. So I think the reboot helped along the way. But I'm Aaron Dutta, and we have a company called Ambika. We fund basically in the climate space, looking at a very broad issue from the planet back. And in doing that, we've been putting investments in place around land, air, sea, and space. What that means is that we've been looking at it a little bit broadly to say, how can we use technology and other processes to impact critical areas of improvement of the planet at scale and at pace? In order to do that, we need to have a notion of how do we actually capitalize these initiatives, then how do we actually harness some of the best people who are passionate about and who has the mechanisms and the intellect and the tools and the support to go and crack some of these big problems, and then be able to put the resources in place that we can demonstrate at scale measurable impact. So for instance, we are in the process of putting together a fund by which we are already have a pipeline of fairly large projects that get into restoration of forests to mangroves, to also looking at broadly carbon credits and how it's sequestrous, but also at the same time how it can also be a next generation asset class. So, those are the broad things, but when you bring it down to it, is heavy use of technology and information and the targeting of the opportunities, is efficient in use of capital to the matched programs, and is taking a commercial outlook so it can be sustainable, where whatever invention or project or program that is developed can be measured and can be grown at scale and replicable to other areas. So through that, we've been investing in several people in their businesses as well as personally, Anu being one of them that we're very excited to work with, as she has been teaching the world around why these things are important and where the role of women play in all this new leadership as far as the divine approach to making things happen that are much more accountable and much more, I think, methodical in a way where the movement in itself has tremendous intellectual capital to, enable. At least I heard $1 billion unbanked. I think, Anu, you're $2 billion and even bigger. That is what we're chasing there. So the universe by which, climate or the planet in our world, in my world, plays in is from the natural resources back to what people own or could own in a digitized form. So blockchain and others are very important technologies to allow people who can have identity to an asset, and more importantly, focus towards enabling of people. How do we change their lives better? So it's people, property, and planet. But in this discussion is working back, where how do we actually invest in the planet through the people and the kind of properties that we identify, unlock, or formulate as far as a new form of capital to be able to do that.
Beautiful. So the main reason we were putting this panel together is, as we approach the new normal, the goal is to start moving in the direction of not just including more women, but incentivizing more women. And ESG, both of you are focused on ESG. And in that, there is an environmental component, but there's also a social component. And earlier in the discussion, Stan was talking about how their technologies are working with local women-owned businesses in Nigeria. Were they both in Nigeria, Stan? They're both in Nigeria? We have you on mute. You need to come off mute. You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. I always forget. One of the problems of our modern day and age, right? But yes, one of the companies was in Nigeria, a women-owned business, and the other one is actually based off of the West Coast. And it's, and I think it's Seattle, Washington, actually, for Nicole. And her company is called Net Zero Problems. And she's right now in Alaska collecting fishing nets that are going to be tracked and recycled and basically tracked on the blockchain. And the beautiful thing about that is the nylon pellets that are going to be tracked are going to go into the SDG Impact Awards that are hopefully going to be awarded this September, the actual trophies themselves, that will have a QR code that you can scan that will show the full chain of custody of the plastic all the way through back into the nets.
Excellent. And Aaron, you've got your portfolio. Last time I checked, you've got a number of women-led ventures. Do you want to highlight any of them, like the climate ones especially?
Sure. I think, the one I'm really excited about is, we want to be able to create some sort of a sustainable real estate portfolio, okay, to really go after that marketplace. I think when you look at the imbalance of the capital markets with crypto and DeFi in that mix, there's tremendous opportunity on one side to look at formulation of capital. On the other side, there's, you look at assets in a very different light. And in doing that, I think, some of the initiatives that Anu has going on with Shikonomy on the ground, whether it's for the refugees in Bangladesh or whether it's creating micro economies in what would traditionally be a cottage industry in Nepal, or whether it's the luxury products that are coming out of Dubai that has a different channel to market. Those things are, women-led businesses, and we get pretty excited about that. So I think the first area I'm going to focus in on now is not only align some of those businesses as a core part of our portfolio, but have a big part of our portfolio be led as a new fund that can sustainably and consciously invest in these initiatives led by women. And I think that's where I'm headed next. And hopefully we'll have some good news in the next couple of days.
Amen.
And
Amen.
Anu, I think you're smiling, and you probably know, why I think this way. And so I'm sure that you will also have a significant voice in the matter of who we select and how we go about this. So I'm really looking forward to that partnership as well.
Me too. And I've just stayed here in Bermuda for that reason. I've parked myself here to make some certain announcements and just making allies and friends, and can't tell you, like, you were bang on the warmth of the people here. I'm just in love with this country and so grateful to be here. And tomorrow we're going to dive deeper with some of the amazing success stories that have come out of COVID that I can't wait to share. The world is turning into a much better place, a more equitable place. The future for our girls, I cannot tell you, I'm beaming. And the future for underbanked, unbanked, indigenous populations, we're ready to change the game. The warriors have aligned, and Stan, you're one of them. And just, feeling the unison of and the unity of this planet that we all share, and just the reverence, right, of the people that have not had that fair opportunity, just honestly, like, fills me up every day. We keep fighting the good fight because we know that there's so many waiting for us. So I just want to thank you to both of you. This panel, we have like 10 more minutes to go. And there's a whole bunch of other panels coming for this evening. Would you all like to highlight any ways that people can start to collaborate with you, Stan? Like, how do they help you with the work that you're doing and amplify the women that you support?
Thank you. So we've just built out the blockchain. We're a technology company, and we're really looking for partners at this point. So if we want to be deployed as a solution around the world, especially in third world countries, sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, where the plastics pollution crisis is very, very prominent, and where the local population, especially in what's considered the informal waste sector, and these people can benefit and live a dignified life by really cleaning up the environment. We would like to be part of that. We'd like to be a cog in the wheel and part of the solution. So if you know anybody, please reach out to us. It's all about making an impact for us. It's all about making a difference. And, in terms of I was actually wanted to comment to Aaron. I caught part of your talk previously in terms of just being a role model, in terms of the male gender leadership role model in these modern times. And it's incredible. And I was telling Anu this afternoon that basically my 12-year-old son, sometimes calls me mommy by mistake. And when he's calling out for his parent, and he's like, "Mommy, oh, I'm sorry, Daddy." And I read up on that. It's basically because your child understands that the parent, whether it's mom and dad, he sees them as equals. And that's the new reality that we live in. And that's the gift that we give to the next generation, that women and men are treated equally and they are all on the same level playing field. And I'm so happy that my son sees it that way. And I hope, this is the message we can carry forward.
No, I think that's a very important part of the convergence now. And I think the unification is at a much greater level. A lot of those things we talk about from a family nucleus out because it's close to home. But I think you'll find a similar story in many homes around the world. It's just described in a different way. And the intentions and the style and tone and the delivery of how it's communicated, it's understood as inner feeling. And I think where I get excited about what Chiconomy and what we're doing here is we're finally using voice as a medium to overcome other unlearned opportunities like reading and writing and things like that. And it may seem simple for us to get to a conclusion like this, but I think the world is a place where there's clearly a need, and the technology and the delivery and the people are not the long pole in the tent or short of creativity, and the economics are correct to do this in a sustainable way where you can enable commercial value to come to the other end. So it doesn't appear like charity or greenwashing or things that kind of feel good but really just doesn't make an impact, right? And I heard you talk about plastics. I mean, gosh, how long have we been talking about it? But it's so great to know that people are actually making an impact, right? But we also have to address the root cause of that and look at substitutes for those kind of materials and material science, right? So on the other side of the equation, we're looking at how do we unmine the minds that create the problem, right? And how can we have economic values and perceived value of those materials, and that maybe that could be a nifty NFT rather than just selling art and collectibles. So there's an opportune time to kind of rethink the instruments by which commerce is created, and how quickly can we get that understood by the people that those models do exist and accessible to them right now. That's the race we're on.
Absolutely. And on that note, I am going to say thank you to our panelists, and we are going to obviously stay in touch and find ways to collaborate. For those of you that want to reach out to Aaron or Stan, please do so on LinkedIn, and we will have more of Aaron tomorrow. We've got an AI session, so join us then. And Stan, thank you again for joining us, and we shall stay in contact and find ways to collaborate. Stan's looking to tokenize his recycling errand, so this could be something down the road for us.
Hey, Stan, that's an area I care a lot about. I'm in New Jersey here, and a good friend of mine has one of the most state-of-the-art recycling for certain, semiconductor type harvesting, and so it's intriguing to me. I would love to talk to you about it.
Yeah, you and I actually need to connect. I'm in Irvington, New Jersey, but I live in downtown Manhattan.
Okay. I'm in Montclair, so I'm not that far from you.
Yeah, so you and I actually, when you were sharing your story, I found a lot of similarities. I actually knew I dated myself by referring to myself as a latchkey kid as well. Because I didn't realize what that was. And it's like,
did you grow up in Brooklyn?
Actually, I was born in Elmhurst, so I was actually born in Jackson Heights, Elmhurst over there in Queens. Grew up on Long Island and went to school in Boston as well. So, I would love to.
You grew up in the other Indian community in Jackson Heights, right?
Which community?
The other Indian community in Jackson Heights.
Right, exactly, in Jackson Heights, right.
All right, well, Anu, thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to the next sessions. Pleasure meeting you, Stan.
And much more to come, Aaron. Thank you, and thank you, Stan, both of you. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Everyone.